Hello viewers, yes, this is Ranjana ma'am and you're watching, yes, it's mine as well as your channel because you're listening to it, and it's my channel. Why? Because I'm teaching you, I'm guiding you, I'm your mentor. So many of you had requested me to put up something for you after I had posted or uploaded a video in YouTube regarding the most important chapters to be studied in ICSE before the boards. So yes, only a week left for y'all, or a little 1 or 2 days more. So here I am, and no, I'm not partial to my ICSE people. Actually, y'all don't need my support that much as they do. They are a bit 2 years junior, na? Anyway, but y'all are also facing the board for the first time. If I'm not mistaken, in class 10 y'all had no boards. Okay, so this is your first board exam. So up till now y'all must have studied all the chapters. So what to revise on the eve of your exams? You will focus more, you will study everything, you must have done it already, but you will focus more on certain chapters which are more probable than the others. So how do we judge it? Based on last year's paper only, these assumptions are made. Last year, the chapters which had come, we will make our assumption, or we will go for pinpointing the important chapters on the basis of that. But before I start, yes, I'm very close, maybe within this, by the end of this month only, I'll complete my 100k. So yes, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and don't forget to press the like button if you have liked it, and I'm sure you'll like it. You need it desperately at this moment. So yeah, let's start. Regarding the Tempest, last year in semester 2, Act 4 and Act 5 had come, or rather it was in the syllabus where you were required to write answers to the questions, not the MCQs. MCQs only Act 3 last year. So this year Act 3 is more important for y'all in the sense that it is a certainty. Act 3 is a certainty, and in Act 3 you have that banquet scene, the harpy, and then Act 3 scene 1 where Ferdinand he confesses his love for Miranda, and Ferdinand and Miranda love story in Act 3 scene 1. So where Ferdinand says that he is the patient logman. So this, or in part scene 2 you have Caliban. Caliban is no less important as one of the lower characters. He is quite important. There might be a small comparison between Ariel and Caliban. Both of them are servants of Prospero. One is unruly, disobedient, and the other. None of them like to be slaves. But Ariel is a refined man. He is afraid of Prospero. So is Caliban, but yet he will be behaving like a stubborn person, and he is rebellious. Ariel is not. So that is Act 3 scene 2 where we find Caliban. And then in Act 3 scene 3, the banquet scene, Ariel as the harpy. So these are important. And from 4 and 5, Act 4 and 5, you can expect one. So you must have noticed, going by the specimen paper, that the question pattern has changed. So you will have to study everything but focus more, because you don't know what is coming. Earlier what had happened was that in all the sections A, B and C, you were given certain questions and you could choose any and write. Okay, you had reference to context, and then 3 from prose, 3 from poems, and 2 from the Tempest or Shakespeare's dramas. And you had to go for first one, reference to context was compulsory, that, and after that you had to pick up 4 from the 3 groups. But now it is different. Now you are to answer 2 compulsory questions of 5 marks each, and then there is a choice in the 10 marks question. 2 5 questions and 1 10-mark question, that amounts to your 20, and the choice is in the 10 marks question, this one or that one. So the choice is very limited. You don't know in which chapter you are to get the choice. So best is to study everything, but expecting which ones to expect. Pay more attention or more focus on these, but you are not going to leave anything. If you are leaving anything, you are inviting trouble. So Act 3 should be a certainty, since Act 3 last year was only in MCQs. Okay, so Act 3, go for all the 3 scenes very well. And in Act 4, last year, Prospero as a concerned father was one question, and the other was Act 5, Prospero's feelings when he hears from Ariel about the repentant mood of the evildoers Sebastian, Alonso and Antonio. So how does Prospero feel? So these 2 questions had come from Act 4 and Act 5. So this time you can, of course you will be getting questions from Act 4 and Act 5, but not from these parts. Not from these parts. I don't think, because ISC and ICSE, they don't repeat immediately next year. So Act 3, go for it very well, because you are to get, if you get 5 marks question also, and you might get a 10 marks question also. And 1 5 can come from either Act 5, Act 4, 10 marks can come from Act 4, and 1 can come from Act 5. The 5 marks can come from Act 5. Okay, so if you want to go for, if you want to be relaxed, if you want to be without any panic before your exam, give attention to these. Act 3, do it very well, because it is coming, and from Act 4 and 5 there is a choice. You might get the choice from Act 4 and 5 in the 10 marks question. Now for your prose. So last year in prose, singing lessons, sound machine and B. Wordsworth. So in singing lessons, 4 and 4, 8 marks questions had come. 2 questions had come from singing lessons, 1 from sound machine and none from B. Wordsworth. Okay, or rather, yeah, 1 from B. Wordsworth, if I am not mistaken. Yeah, 1 from B. Wordsworth. So in that case, to build a fire and the story of an hour, they are very, very important for you all. To build a fire and the story of an hour. So it could be that the 10 marks questions can come from to build a fire, the journey of that man and what eventually happens to him, or the story of an hour. These are very important. Study them very well. You have 5 chapters and in all you will be getting 4 questions, of which 2 are compulsory. The 5 marks questions are compulsory, and the 10 marks there is a choice, either this or that. So you have to prepare at least 3 chapters very well out of these 5. So I am telling, prepare these 2, to build a fire and the story of an hour, because they are a certainty. You are going to get from it. Mark my words, unless something goes very wrong. This is probability. This is how we are trying to analyze and trying to figure out the most important ones. So out of 5 you are to get 4, 2 2 5 marks question and 1 this or that, so 4, but you are supposed to answer 3. So that is what I said. To build a fire and the story of an hour should be more important than the other 3, especially singing lesson, since there were 2 questions coming from singing lesson last year. In that case, it is less important. I'm not saying not important, I'm saying less important. Sound machine and B. Wordsworth, they can come as the 5 marks or this or that. Okay. And now for the poems. In your poems, last year, 1 question had come from Dover Beach, 4 marks. Another question had come from We Are the Music Makers, 4 marks. So these 2 and 3 more are in your syllabus of this year. So Dover Beach, Music Makers, The Darkling Thrush, Birches and Crossing the Bar. So these 3 questions, or rather these 3 poems, Darkling Thrush, Birches and Crossing the Bar, they are a certainty. And from these 2 you will get 1. Dover Beach and Music Makers, you can get a 10 marks one also, because in the specimen Dover Beach, yeah, so one of them has come as the important one. I mean, in the specimen also one of them has come, either from Music Makers or Dover Beach, one can come. I wouldn't say both, but from these 3, Birches and The Darkling Thrush and Crossing the Bar. So I think Birches and Darkling Thrush is very important for a 10 marks question, because they are quite lengthy, especially Birches is very lengthy. So in that case, it can be expected as a 10 marks question. And related to the Darkling Thrush also, it is a bit difficult than the others. So in that case, I think the Darkling Thrush and Birches can come as a 10 marks question. If not, still they are a certainty for your 5 marks. Crossing the Bar can be a 5 marks question. So study Darkling Thrush, Birches and Crossing the Bar very, very seriously. These 3 should come. I'm not saying will come, I'm saying should come. It ought to come. Why? Because last year these 3, there was nothing from these 3. See, you have to study everything, means all the chapters, in order to get a perfect 10 in your MCQs, because questions will be coming from each and every chapter rather. And for your because question, means reasoning, for that also you have to study everything. So why are you going to leave out anything? Because if you leave out any chapter, you will be at the risk of losing your 1 marks there in the because question, the reasoning, or in the MCQs. So if you have to study, why not study a little better, so that you can answer also the questions, the extra, I wouldn't say extra questions, nowadays you don't have reference to context. You will be able to answer these essay type questions of 5 marks and 10 marks. So now to sum up, Act 3, study very, very well, because 1 should come from there. Okay, so Act 3, and from 4 and 5, yes. So Act 3 you will study on the eve of your exam, and after that, if you have time, yes, you can revise. So first, which ones will you study? Act 3, and in prose, to build a fire and the story of an hour, you will first study these. Act 3, story of an hour, to build a fire, the darkling thrush, crossing the bar and birches. And after that, the others. Okay, so after that the others, because sound machine and B. Wordsworth can come as a 5 marks question, and in the poems also, Dover Beach and Music Makers, of it 1 can come as a 10 marks one, it may not come. But these 3, from these 3 at least 2 should come. That means both can be the 5 marks compulsory, or it can be a 10 marks. I think birches can come as a 10 marks question. And since y'all are the first batch, it is a bit difficult, but you don't need to panic because your syllabus has been bifurcated. You are only studying the 12 syllabus. Whereas only 2 or 3 years back, they had to study 10 chapters, 11 and 12. So they had to study a lot, and that is why they were given a wider range of choice. Since your syllabus has been cut, they don't want that you should leave anything. The board doesn't want that you should leave anything. You have to study everything, and that is why they have gone for the MCQs to check whether you are not leaving anything. And same for the reasoning question, the 10 marks, to see whether you have prepared yourself thoroughly. And that is what I am also suggesting, that you will study everything, but which are the very important ones you will study more. Okay, so don't give the examiners a chance to cut your marks. Study very well, because if you don't study very thoroughly, you won't be able to frame your answers properly. And you have seen that 2 questions in each group are compulsory. The 5 marks one, they are compulsory. So this is a CBSE pattern. They have changed into the CBSE pattern. CBSE 11, 12, or I used to see that they don't have much choice. This or that, and the others are compulsory. Same for y'all. Now they have introduced this pattern in ISC also. This or that, and 2 which are compulsory. So please prepare in the way I told you. First prepare Act 3 and the 2 prose pieces and the 3 poems, and after that go for the others, right? So on the eve of your exams, if you feel, since there is no gap, 13th is your language and 14th is your literature, since there is no gap, study the other chapters now itself, and before the exam, on the eve of your exam, 13th evening, if you feel you don't have sufficient time to give a hurricane revision to everything, then go for all these, because if you have studied them now, the other chapters, it will be in your mind. You won't forget so soon. And if you can revise everything, and how will you revise? I have a good idea. I tell my students that this is the time when you can pick out the keywords of every paragraph while going through. So pick out the keywords and underline them. And while you are going for your last minute revision, what will you do? Remember the keywords. Suppose you have 20 keywords in a chapter. Just remember them, and in a flash you will remember the whole paragraph. That is how we used to study in our times. Remembering the keyword or the first few words of a particular paragraph, and that would remind you, oh, this paragraph is about this, the next paragraph also in that way. So we would make a list of the main words or the keywords and remember the keywords, and then as you go, everything will come in your mind as if like a photograph. This is the way to study fast on the eve of your examination. So these are one of the tips to study fast, to give a hurricane revision. So that is how we could go for pages. Nowadays though, it is restricted. You all have word limit or something. But there was a time when we had to write pages, and for that, like if you have a 5 marks question, you have a, if not a word limit, but it is expected that you won't write more than this and certain points. But let me tell you that it is not always points, because you might get a question where there might not be points and you are told to explain one thing only. So don't think, many schools suggest that if it is a 5 marks question means you have to go for 5 points. No, that's not true. I don't think so. There can be 3 points also, and it can make a 5 marks one. In your 10 marks question, then you will hunt for 10 points. No. You have to explain what they have asked you. There may be point, there may not be so many points. Right? So prepare your answers, go through the answers you have got in your specimen and try to get an answer, try to get an idea. I would say that regarding poems, go for the explanation. not just the summary. Go for a line wise explanation. Remember to go through the paraphrasing very well. Prose is easy to handle, poems are a bit difficult, but then you know from that whatever they ask, a part of the summary should be there in your 10 marks question also, this or that. So a little bit of the summary, and then it depends. But it isn't difficult, because only birches is a lengthy one, the darkling thrush is not, and neither is crossing the bar. Crossing the bar is allegorical, means one meaning on the surface and there is a deeper meaning inside, and crossing the bar is of course always very important. So these three are very important for you all, and after that one should come from those two. That means which one is it? Dover Beach and Music Makers. And regarding prose also, I feel that since Sound Machine 2 questions had already come last year, that is less probable. But still, you cannot leave, because you will be getting one at least MCQ from it and one at least because question. Right? So, go for it very well, and yes, best of luck.